Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of And Now You Know with Betty and Julz. I'm Betty.
And I'm Julz.
And today we're going to be talking about earning your divorce. So if you've joined us before, you know that, of course, we share stories about our divorces, but we want you to know that we are actually pro-marriage. We actually love love, and we think that if it is at all possible to work it out, we say you work it out. But today we're going to be talking about what we think about divorce and what it means to earn your divorce.
Yep. And before we get going, every now and then I like to just remind people that we're not doctors, we're not psychiatrists, we're not therapists. We're just two women that God threw each of us into our paths. And we just have had an incredible friendship and journey and incredible conversations and things that life has thrown our way. We've helped each other get through those things, and we just decided that we wanted to bring it to life on YouTube and podcasts and all that. So these are just really conversations and experiences that we've had, and we're not downplaying anybody or anything that somebody might be going through. So we're just here to build a community of trust and maybe a aha moment for you. Maybe you're going through something, and I know that when I've gone through things and I found somebody had gone through that I found comfort in knowing that it wasn't just me.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's what we're here for.
Yeah. And I also found comfort from learning, Julz's past experiences that really became a lot of wisdom for me in whatever I was going through. So it's just in hopes to share.
That's all it is. We hope that we can make somebody feel better about and maybe give you some nuggets of encouragement and things that it can help you continue to move forward, because that's what all of this is about. It's about taking from those things that are hard knocks in your life and extracting the lesson and moving on and hopefully not repeating that again. I repeated it. I'm a touch the hot stove kind of a girl. And I had to learn the hard way.
Yep. And I mean, I think everybody has learned certain lessons the hard way. But for me, I've had one divorce, and, I'm on this journey of really learning a lot about what came from that, what I learned about myself, the things that I learned along the way. And, for me, it's about learning not to repeat that. So I don't want to touch that hot stove again.
And I did all mine in my 20s, quite frankly. And so I was pretty foolish. And I think that we do a lot of foolish things in our 20s. I'm not making excuses. But what I want to get into on this conversation is that once you've made that decision to make the commitment in a marriage, you can't just decide one day that you can't just break up like if you were dating someone. Trust me, you can't just break up. So I was married 6 weeks one time, and I didn't get to just break up. I tried to get an annulment, but the court system wouldn't let us. So I had to go through the whole divorce thing for 6 weeks, and it was quite humiliating because I had gotten a divorce, and I got married, and I got divorced all in 1 year. So another part of this is stop being stupid and don't get married to someone 4 months after you got a divorce. You have not had time to let the true colors of each other's personality come out to see if you want to keep spending time with that person.
Well, okay, so that brings up that brings up a good point. Let me just interject right here. That brings up a very good point.
But I am laughing at myself.
I know.
Sorry.
Well, and the only reason why I bring this up is because it really, in hopes to avoid from anybody repeating that error, that Julz just talked about. So for me, I'm in the dating world, and one of the questions that I always ask is, how long were you married, and how long have you been divorced? And I'm not talking about separated. I'm talking about from the finalization stamp on the divorce decree. The reason why I asked that is the ink dry. That's exactly right. The reason why I asked that is because I know what it's like to be in your first year post-divorce where you don't even have your feet under you yet. And I don't think that's the right time to be dating.
No.
And I think that right there could be a recipe of a second divorce really quickly following. And so I think that that's important. And exactly what she's saying, she hadn't really recovered from the first one and then jumped into another one. So let that be a lesson.
Well,
Don't let the,
yeah.
you can't just throw yourself into another one just because you're lonely, or maybe because you think,
That's all it is.
Yeah.
Is being lonely. And my codependency, I didn't even know what codependency was then, but I just had this horrible need for someone to be there. And if I was lonely, I couldn't breathe and I couldn't eat. And it stemmed back to my childhood trauma of my father dying and the feeling of them saying he's gone. That's what was inside of me. And so get to a place where you understand you and why it just having a warm body there isn't going to fix you. You've got to take the time to fix you.
right.
So I continued to get married over and over, and they were relationships that there's just no way that they could be sustainable. And I earned my divorces, and I hung on. I put the marriages on life support, and when you have a marriage on life support, it's just better to unplug it. It really is, and just let it go, because it is not. It's dead. It's just dead.
So, and what we mean by earning your divorce now, and
Yeah.
I'll talk about my example. I was married for almost 20 years, and I did not want the divorce, and I did not file for the divorce. But what I can say, when the divorce was said and done, I did absolutely everything I could to make it work.
Right.
I tried everything. And so I had a very clear conscience when it was all done. It's not something that I ever thought that I was going to experience, or, now be a single mom, divorced single mom. Never thought it was going to happen. But in my case, when we talk about earning it, I did earn it. Yeah. There was a lot that happened in my relationship, and I didn't just get up one day and walk out.
Yeah, there are so many things that constitute a divorce, and if you are going through counseling in a marriage that you're trying to save, I think that there is some confusion. Like, there can be things going on in a marriage, and if you're going to the wrong counselor, and I'm going to throw Christian counselor in there. I am a Christian, but I went to multiple Christian counselors who told me, well, you've made a commitment. You just need to suck it up and stay. Well, I was being verbally abused. I was being physically abused. I was being emotionally and spiritually abused.
And financially.
And financially, we can do that. There were just ways to keep me locked down and under his control. And when I finally got in with the therapist that God designed for me to go to, he was like talking to my granddad. He was this just handsome, older gentleman, always dressed up. He always had on his suit and tie and his dress shoes, and he always had a beautiful candle burning in his office. And the minute I walked in, I just felt, this is where I'm supposed to be. And to have him look me in the eye and say, do you know who you are? And me say, I guess I don't. He said, you are the daughter of the Most High. You are God's daughter. And he does not want his daughter treated like this. And he asked me, he said, if your dad were alive today and he knew this was going on, what would he do? My dad would have killed him and then gone and turned himself in and said, I did it, just so I wouldn't have to be exposed to that. So you need to make sure that you're talking to the right people and not, you made a commitment, so you need to stay there and endure this. That's bullshit. And there are other things. I mean, abuse, adultery, what are all?
I mean, those are the big ones right there.
Those are the big ones.
Those are the big ones. And what I'm going to add is, I grew up in a very, very religious, very strict household. And what I will tell you is that I also saw in the church that I grew up in, I saw the absolute worst behavior in adult men and women, and I'm not, it wasn't the women that were misbehaving, it was the men that were misbehaving, but they got a pass when the women were thrown the Bible.
Yeah.
It was thrown
Right.
at them, and this is what you're supposed to do, and you're the wife, and you stay silent, and you suck it up, and you take it.
Be submissive.
Be submissive. And so I will tell you that is the biggest load of crap that
It
I
is.
would absolutely never, never, ever would I recommend that you stay in an abusive relationship. Or you've been, there's infidelity involved. Those are really the two big ones.
There's also alcoholism.
There's
lying. That those things evolve into a form of abuse. There is people who withhold sex. They it's like weaponized. Sex is a weapon, or they may want you to just be the cover of a book that makes them look good, but inside they're just using you to maybe help them look good in the corporate
for
world,
the status or whatever it is that they need.
I mean, there's just, you can catch yourself in so many different scenarios. And listen, I believe in letting the offender know what they've done, and if they don't correct that, then you go and share it with a counselor or someone, and you bring them in on it. And if you've got multiple people saying, okay, this is what needs to be done, if it doesn't get better, then you've earned your divorce.
Right. And that's the thing that we want you to hear, which is why we want to keep talking about the earning the divorce.
Yeah.
Is that if you have done all you can, and you have gone to the person and you have expressed yourself, you've gone to counseling, and you're trying to get some help, the other person is, if they are completely unwilling,
Right.
unwilling to repent, unwilling to change, unwilling to course correct, then this is where it is on you, your responsibility this is where we say, if you don't change it, you choose it. And this is also where we say the blurry line between the victim and the enabler.
Right.
Because now that you have done all you can, and if there is abuse involved, or any of the things that we've talked about, all of those things you have earned then at that point your divorce. I don't believe that you should stay in it.
I don't either, and I know couples who have lived through infidelity and maybe some lying and maybe some alcoholism and all these things, and I've seen people change.
Yes, if they are both willing.
Right. And you can do that, and I applaud those people, because marriage can be really hard and rocky at times, and it's not white pickets and butterflies and unicorns. It's just not. Mine is, but we haven't raised children together, and I think you throw children into the mix, and the busyness of life and the stresses of getting your feet planted solid in a financial you just evolve into these things. And I really applaud the couples who have made it through some of those things, and I think it takes a really strong friendship to weather the storms. There's got to be more to the relationship than just hot sex, because I personally believe that sex is only 20% of a marriage, and then the other 80% is all the other stuff that's going on. And how are you going to handle it as a couple? Because if somebody does something, if let's say you're married and you've got a couple of kids, and you find out that your husband had an affair first time, and he begs you to forgive him and he'll never do it again, and y'all go get counseling, don't just talk about the marriage, talk about the childhood trauma, talk about, are we in a midlife crisis, that's a symptom of something deeper.
Totally, 100%. That the affair is not the reason.
No, it's not.
For the whatever. There is something behind that really caused the affair to happen. And that's where people don't examine.
Right.
What is the underlying root?
Right. And
that's
what we call it. We just call everything the root. And there is always a root. And here's where, for me, I finally had the light bulb moment of, this is a character flaw. Because it just keeps getting repeated. There are all these, show me some grace, I love you so much, I'll never do it again. And then we cycle through, and boom, we're right back there again. and it's repeated over and over and over. And I loved the good moments enough to stick around, but then it starts, the bad starts outweighing the good, and you just get so depleted that you can't fight the good fight anymore. And you realize that they're not going to change. And the word repent, I used to hate that word, but forgiveness and repentance go hand in hand. A forgiveness does not count if they don't repent, and repent means to change. So if they're doing it repeatedly, a repeated offense, and they keep saying they're sorry, I reached a point where I was like, please don't waste my ear and head space or your breath telling me that you're sorry.
Well, at that point, you're right. At that point where it now is repetitive, now that is a complete lack of respect and honor for the marriage, for the relationship, for you as
your
the partner,
kids,
for
for
your
your
kids,
home,
for everything.
the
and
whole
at,
family.
And at that point, this is where we say you have to kind of dig into yourself and realize that you deserve more, and you have to have that self-love and that dignity within yourself to realize that you can't want to change someone that is perfectly happy with who they are.
Yeah, and
there's no changing that.
You've been letting them, have this behavior. You've been allowing it, and nothing's happened except maybe a fight or and then the forgiveness and blah 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 and the makeup sex and all the blah stuff that goes along with it, and then it happens again. And I don't know. You have to decide what you think you deserve. And I am not an encourager of divorce. I am not I love marriage. I love love. And I do not believe in divorce, which is the irony of my life and my story, because I have been divorced 4 times. My mom used to say we didn't need to count the second one because it only lasted 6 weeks. But guess what? I stood in a church. I wore a white dress. I made vows in front of God. So in my soul and my spirit, it did count, and that's something that I have to be accountable to. So, am I proud of it? No, but it's part of my story, and I can't change it. I would change that. I have said that I wouldn't change some things in my life, but I would take that one back.
That one.
Yeah,
I can see that.
I would say I want a mulligan on that deal, but I can't, because that's what happened in my life. And I went and figured out what was wrong with me. Now it was 20 years later when I figured out why I was doing these things, or even longer than that. But it was like 25 years later. After that one, I did all my crap in my 20s, all my stupid things in my 20s. Then I married what I call the grand finale in my 30s, and that one lasted a long time. And that's the one that kicked my butt. That was the hot stove that God was like, "All right, girl, you wanna do this? Game on. I'm not playing this game with you anymore." And I'm thankful, because if it hadn't happened, I would not be where I'm at now, and I would not understand myself. Now, he does say that I just woke up and went, I'm tired of being married to you, so I'm going to go get a divorce today. That is not how it worked, and that is not what happened. And so if he wants to listen to his own lies, he doesn't get to throw them on me anymore.
Yeah.
So.
And I, like Julz, I am also not an advocate of divorce. I am divorced, but where I say I'm not an advocate, because I actually do believe in marriage. When you're married to the right person,
Right.
I believe in marriage. I also think that there's something really beautiful and sacred of a man and a woman, or whatever combination you'd like. Personally, for me, it's a man and a woman.
Yeah, me too.
And, for me, I want to be married to a man. I want to be married to the right man, and I want to build, a really great life together. But at the same time, if you are married today and you tell me that you are miserable and you're crying all the time and your life is withering away, then I would tell you to get divorced.
Well, I'd probably say,
what is going on there?
What's making you wither away and cry? And when you can finally get somebody to open up. And listen, people, I want to tell y'all one more thing. And I am about to get on my soapbox here. If somebody is going through a divorce, don't judge them. You have no friggin' idea what has been going on behind those closed doors. Maybe somebody's gay. Maybe somebody's just a jerk. Maybe somebody isn't carrying the financial burden or helping. Maybe somebody's not showing up. You don't know. So how about you keep your nose out of it and you let them live their lives and you love them through it? Because I can tell you something, one day something's going to happen to you, and the way that you're judging today, you will be judged.
Yep. And that's true. And this is why I say, for me personally, I'm all for everybody living their life the way that they want to live it. And so no judgment. For me, I feel like if somebody is going through something, if somebody feels like they're suffering in silence because they're afraid of somebody else's judgment,
Right.
and they know in their heart that they're not in the right situation, this is why I say it's okay, get divorced. Now, I say that because I remember I used to have big judgments around divorce. I used to think it was the ultimate divorce until
The ultimate divorce.
I'm sorry, the ultimate failure. Sorry,
Okay.
thank you for the. I used to think it was the ultimate failure, but what I realized that when I was facing divorce, I remember thinking to myself that I had just biggest fail of my life. I remember, and I didn't even want the divorce. So I remember still thinking this is the biggest failure of my life and it is gut wrenching. You go through all this crap that you go through. But I remember having this judgment of myself, of like, man, I think I'd rather be dead than divorced.
Right.
I remember saying that. And I do not feel that way today. I do not feel that way today. And for me to feel like I was at the bottom of the barrel, loser, failure, that is just not true
not.
for somebody who did everything to fight to keep a marriage together. So like
Right.
for anybody that feels, but I absolutely do believe that we were not equally yoked.
Right.
And so there's nothing you can do if you're not equally yoked. There's it doesn't matter how hard you fight, how much you think that you can make it all the way. If you're not investing, if you are not pulling together, if you are both not envisioning the same path and the same future, you can't carry the whole thing by yourself.
You can't.
You can't. You can't.
I think that back in the day that a lot of people did, though, they just buried their head in the sand and they swept it under the rug or whatever you want to call it. They were the submissive, and it was more the women being submissive to the man's behavior back in the day.
Yep.
And it's not that way anymore. But there's so much I want to say on this topic because it is the irony of my life, and it's in the top 5 of the most stressful events that you can go through in your life. There's death, there's divorce, there's a new job, there's children,
Financial.
and there's moving. And divorce sometimes I think is harder than death because
100%.
there is a major rejection layer in it that even if you're the one who decided to leave and get the divorce, you've already lived through the rejection. And that's why you have decided, because they picked something over you, or they picked many things over you. They may have picked going to the club. They may have picked another, having women coming in and out of their lives and sneaking around. Who knows? I mean, there's just so many things that can debilitate you. And, so you've already felt I'm the one who pursued my last divorce, and but I had already been so fully rejected in that marriage that it wasn't even funny. And he pretended like I just woke up and said, I don't want to be married to you anymore. I did not want to be married to him anymore.
Yeah.
But I earned it.
Right. So there are so many different things. There's so many different feelings around it. But really what the hope is for you and why we're even talking about this is because when you do fully come to grips with a divorce that has to happen or one that you're already in the middle of, the other side of that is so incredibly beautiful. And what we want you to know that there's so much peace and love and freedom and resilience and all this amazing stuff on the other side of it.
If you do the work.
If you do the work. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
If you do the work. Because I will tell you, if you don't do the work, which is what we see from other people, if you don't do the work,
And what we saw in me.
it's a repetitive cycle.
Yeah.
Right? So you're just repeating it, and it's just really causing more pain versus sitting down and really digging and figuring out the root of what the heck is going on and how do I fix this. And when you do that, which is the journey I've been on for the last 5 years, I do believe that it's something incredibly beautiful that you will look back and think, who was that?
I know.
Who was that? I am not that person, and I am so grateful with where I am today, and I have such an amazing life ahead of me. That's what we want you to experience.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've told Jay, and I may have told you too, that when I think back to the girl who married the guy and the number 4 guy, I always say I changed so substantially. I'm not even remotely that person anymore. And I used to say it in a way that like there was a longing, like I wanted to be her, but I don't. Because if I was still her, then I would just be in a different marriage that was the same shit, different man. You've got to grow from it. And or it repeats itself. It's fascinating to me. I think that sometimes we are just so afraid of being alone. And when we are alone, then we can't stand the way it feels. So give yourself some time to go through that process. And there are painful days in that process, but make yourself a yummy dinner. You don't have to have somebody there with you to make. I'm going to throw out chicken parmigiana because that was what I made for myself one night because I had invited my mom over, and then she called and she said, I'm not going to be able to come. And then I was like, well, and then I decided, you know what? I deserve chicken parmigiana. So I made it for myself, and I had a glass of wine and I lit candles, and it was the first night, and this was a long time ago. It was the first time that I treated myself the way that I wanted to be treated. And it was a lesson. I still had a lot of lessons to learn because that was after my second divorce. So I still had 2 more divorces in front of me. But it's kind of cool now. I mean, I'm not bragging and proud of the fact that I've been divorced 4 times, but whenever somebody is so sad and heartbroken because they are going through a divorce, I can always say, do you want me to make you feel better and prove to you that you're going to get through this and you're going to be on the other side? And they always say yes. And I'm like, I've been divorced 4 times. And it's shocking, the people that, and I used to really, make fun of it and, make a joke of it, but it's not funny. It's not. There's nothing funny. And every divorce that I went through hurt just as much as the one divorce that you went through. There was pain and loss and disappointment, and because none of us get married thinking that we're going to get a divorce.
And if you are about to get married and you're thinking to yourself, well, if it doesn't work out, I'll just get divorced. Just don't get married.
Don't wait.
Let just save the heartache and don't waste anybody's time and your own. Just don't get married. If you are in an engagement, because I will tell you, I have talked to so many people that are engaged and they have a feeling or they're worried. Just don't get married. Just don't get married. It's so much easier to honestly just give the ring back and call off the marriage and just go do something else. It is so much easier when you haven't muddied everything up, when you haven't gotten married, you don't have, hopefully if you don't have kids yet, it's just so much easier to walk away and just go do your thing and let them do their thing. And really what you want to do is take the time to really dig deep and figure out, how did I get here? And figure that out before you jump into the next one.
It's such a great point, Betty, because every single one of those failed marriages, I knew. I had that feeling. But I didn't want to hurt anybody's feelings. But the wake of destruction that it left behind, it would have been better to hurt their feelings in. I mean, a breakup is a lot easier than packing up a whole home that you've been living in and having to move your kids to different schools and having to, go and try to make a living to feed these little mouths that you've got all by yourself. And oh my goodness, I remember my middle son. I was working downtown, so it was like an hour drive, and I would drop him off at his daycare, and I would always make his breakfast and take him in there at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I would cry all the way to work because he was sitting in there by himself with this little paper plate and his breakfast, eating his breakfast. Oh, doesn't that make you sad? Don't do it. Don't do it. Think. And honestly, if I had a good friend of mine, and 2 of those marriages, she came over the night before and she said, let's get in the car and let's go to Galveston. Let's go to the beach. I'll call your mom and tell her, and we'll just tell everybody that it's off.
What, Runaway Bride?
Yes. But I wasn't in my dress yet. And she was like, you don't have to do it. I know you don't want to do it. And it was that I didn't want to, all those people had already given me wedding gifts. They had already maybe traveled to come to the wedding or whatever. The flowers were already in the whatever. It's still better. Get out.
Oh my
Don't
gosh,
do
it's
it.
so much better. Look, learn the lesson, give the gifts back, cancel everything. I will tell you, the feeling of divorce, my God, you don't want to experience that. If you have the slightest doubt, just don't do it. And I'm talking about don't get married. Right. I'm not saying don't get divorced. If you're already in a marriage and you have issues with it and whatever's going on, that might just have to be what you do.
You have to earn it.
You have to earn it. But what I'm talking about is if you can just save yourself.
Right.
Save yourself. If you have the slightest reservation, doubt, inkling, gut feeling, any of that, just don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. The person that is for you does not give you any confusion. The person that is for you, you have a sense of safety. There's no fear. There's seriously, I don't even know what to say to convince you not to do it. Don't do it.
Yeah, those 4 that I knew that I shouldn't have done it. And then I married Jay. Praise God that he did not look at my resume and take it at face value. But I did not have one single moment, a thought of, I shouldn't be doing this. Not one time did it go through my mind. And none of my friends, not my mother, not my sister, none of them said, don't do this. On the others, I had multiple people say, I don't think this is right. Don't do it. But not with Jay. So you also have your people in your life. Listen to them because they are not looking through the rose-colored lenses that you're looking through. I don't know what happens. We just get all blah and we can't see things straight.
Julz is the person that I call if there's any situation going on in my life, present day, any situation, any dating, advice that I need, or if I'm talking to her and I say, Julz, I need you to talk me off the ledge. Anything that's going on in my life, I will call her because I know that she will tell me the truth. I know that she does not have the rose-colored lenses on. I know that she knows what I want for my life and what I stand for and what I believe in. And so you need yourself a Julz. You need somebody that can help you.
And I feel honored that you do that. And I pray that God always puts the right words in my mouth because I don't want to disqualify a guy that might be good, but then she'll just keep saying certain things, and I'm like, all right, no, enough. This isn't it. It's not him.
Yeah.
So we haven't found him yet.
Nope, we haven't.
And I say we because I am a part of her board of directors, and I had a board of directors, and they. If I was dating someone and they told me, I don't like him, you have to break up, I had committed to doing that. They got to make that decision for me. I didn't get to because obviously I'd used up all of my divorces. I'd gotten a divorce for everybody in the family, so nobody else had to get a divorce because I got everybody covered here. So anyway, yeah, but I don't want to disqualify a qualified guy. She knows what she's looking for, But if I meet him and it's a no go, I'm like, nope, nope.
Yeah, so far, nobody has been qualified. Well,
No.
so far, I have disqualified everybody, but she has also disqualified everybody. There has never been anybody, and I mean, there haven't been that many anyway, but there has never been anybody that she has said to me, I highly, highly encourage you to take this one.
Right? No,
No, none. There has not, so
No.
we're on this little adventure together.
And these poor guys, they go out with Betty, and they've never gone out with someone like Betty before, and they just lose their minds, quite frankly. And it's just too much. Y'all need to settle down a little bit.
And on that note, back to the story at hand here.
And we are at the end of
we are at the end, but anyway, yeah. So that was kind of funny. We'll end it on that.
Yeah.
But we just want to say that we both, we both love. We're both pro marriage.
Yep.
We both really do believe in how beautiful it can be and what it is supposed to be like. And so we just encourage you to do it the right way with the right person. I mean, we're praying for you.
We are. And
We
just
are.
Don't settle.
Don't settle.
Don't
Don't settle.
settle. If
And have
you-
and work on your list if
Got
you
that
haven't.
thing. Yeah,
Yep.
if you got that thing and you're saying this isn't right, then just say, I appreciate your time. Unfortunately, I'm not feeling the chemistry, but
Right.
I'm looking for with you.
Right.
You're a great guy, great gal. I hope you find what you're looking for.
Yep.
And just skip the courts.
Yep.
Skip the judge in the black robe. There's nothing fun about it.
Yeah. And I just said a second ago, work on the list, but first work on you.
Yes.
So that is the number one thing that we both recommend is work on you first. And when you get to a place where you then understand who you are, what you're looking for, what you deserve, then you work on your list.
That's right.
And on that note, thank you so much for spending a part of your day with us. We so appreciate you watching us. We appreciate your time and your support. And if you have any comments, feedback, questions, you can go ahead and put them in the comment section below, or you can send us an email at hello@bettyandjulz.com, BETTE.
JULZ.
And until the next time, see you later.
Bye.
Bye.